As ever, many thanks for your comments. And as Ukraine apparently acknowledges that it is responsible for the bomb in Moscow and that it was detonated remotely, and that it still doesn't seem to have occurred. It still doesn't that information still doesn't seem to have come out on the mainstream media yet. But Alexei RJ a few minutes ago left an interesting comment, and I'll go through it. Chemical weapons were most frequently used in Syria, absolutely, and this must not be forgotten. And then he goes on and says, additionally, these criminals are linked to the use of specialized chemical compounds against residents of suburban areas of St Petersburg. Unless I'm mistranslating, I think that's a very interesting comment, and it ties in with the known fact of the St Petersburg complexes, where sort of clandestine chemical weapons programs have been conducted in Russia, notably involving Novichok nerve agents. And this area remains one of the most troubling and complex issues geographically and in terms of politics. While Russia ratified the Chemical Weapons Convention in 1997 and declared the destruction of its chemical arsenal in 2017 under Vladimir Putin's oversight, it was clearly lying, because evidence suggests that these claims were far from the truth. Instead, a network of military and civilian research entities has sustained the development and the use of these lethal agents, as demonstrated by the high-profile poisonings in Salisbury, and by the use of chemical weapons in Syria. The poisoning of the opposition leader Alexei Navalny, for example, in 2020, the Skripal attack in Salisbury, of course, in 2018, these starkly showcase the sophistication and reach of Russia's chemical weapons apparatus, and both incidents involved Novichok, a nerve agent developed during the Soviet era, with traces independently verified by the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And Russia denied involvement, offering conflicting narratives to deflect blame, including absurd suggestions that Western intelligence agencies staged these attacks as false flags. False flags to do what? The investigations by groups like Bellingcat, The Insider, Der Spiegel have uncovered a disturbing pattern, and these groups reveal that the GRU's Unit 29155, a covert operations unit, collaborated with scientific institutions like the St. Petersburg State Institute for Experimental Military Medicine, the GN11VM, and the Scientific Center Signal to continue Novichok research. Despite ostensibly focusing on antidotes for organophosphate poisoning, these institutions appear deeply entwined with operational planning for high-profile poisonings. So the research led by Sergei Chepur plays a central role. Phone metadata shows Chepur's frequent communication with GRU officers, including during critical moments leading up to the Salisbury operation, for example. Calls between Chepur and operatives such as Denis Sergeyev, the alias of Sergei Fedotov, and Alexander Mishkin, the alias of Alexander Petrov, point to coordination in deploying Novichok. These interactions align with key events such as GRU operatives travelling to Switzerland and the UK on public transport, endangering ordinary people, ostensibly to prepare for the Skripal poisoning. The involvement of the Scientific Center Signal highlights advanced techniques such as nano-encapsulation, which enhance Novichok's efficiency by delaying its effects, including absorption and masking its presence. And this innovation, while ostensibly legitimate for pharmaceutical applications, aligns with the requirements for clandestine poisonings. And sanctions by the European Union and the UK targeted senior Russian officials and institutions like the 33rd Central Research Institute, historically linked to Novichok development. This stuff remains unsanctioned and reflects gaps in Western intelligence focus. And the role of open source investigations is crucial. These groups, these investigators, like the Bellingcat and so on, Der Spiegel, have bridged the gap between intelligence and public accountability, revealing evidence that states may hesitate to disclose. Their findings challenge Russia's disinformation campaigns, countering narratives of denial and deflection. And Russia's continued use of chemical weapons contravenes international norms and undermines global security. These incidents, like the use of phosphorus, illustrate not only the brutality of the Kremlin's tactics against dissidents, but also the broader threat posed by state-sponsored chemical warfare. And the persistence of such programs highlight the limitations of arms control agreements when enforcement mechanisms are weak. So the revelations about Russia's chemical weapons program demand sustained international scrutiny beyond sanctions. A comprehensive strategy combining intelligence, diplomatic pressure, open source investigations are essential to deter further use of these weapons. And while the Kremlin dismisses these accusations as baseless, the evidence paints a much grimmer picture of ongoing chemical weapons development cloaked in denial and misdirection. And one of the figures who is involved in this is the person who was blown up yesterday morning by the scooter. There's no doubt at all.